Howdy guys, welcome back to another video, and today we're going to be talking about the big Hyrule Warriors game for the Switch 2, that being Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment. Zelda on the Switch 2 sure is interesting because we got both Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom as Switch 2 editions. They're 4K now and run pretty good. And then not even 6 months after, you got a brand new Hyrule Warriors game, which I can't help but feel like was originally in development for the original Switch. Games like Mario Kart World and Donkey Kong Bonanza later got revealed to be originally Switch concepts. They were probably going to come out maybe in 2024, 2025, and it's personally my theory on why 2024 was such a drought for Nintendo. And they eventually realized, well, hey, we can not only put this on a brand new console to give it some games, give it an actual reason to buy it, but it'll probably run better too. And yeah, that's what I'd say is the case for Age of Imprisonment. You could consider this a sequel to Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity, which is more of a Breath of the Wild prequel, while this is more of a Tears of the Kingdom prequel. Of course, technically in the timeline, this takes place before all of it. I mean, the Zelda timeline in general is just confusing when you try to get in the Breath of the Wild era, but for what we know, this is a prequel to both Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. Age of Calamity is not canon, but this game is. Although we saw glimpses and flashes of the imprisoning war that this game's talking about, not to get confused with the imprisoning war from Ocarina of Time, like this is a whole different thing. Again, I know it's confusing. But yeah, this game goes on to explain the events that happen in a lot more detail, in which we got to know about a lot of the characters. For example, my brother Sims over Artie. And although I don't feel like it serves as a great background between a lot of the characters that we first saw in Tears of the Kingdom, such as King Rauru and, the Queen Sonia, all the sages that you go along with, and really what Hyrule was like all those years ago, which I think is like 3,000 years ago, I don't feel like it does a great job explaining that. But when it comes to the actual war and the things that happened, yeah, you know damn well it's got it. All these strange beasts and how Ganon took over Hyrule. Which, going back to the background thing, we still don't know a whole ton about Ganondorf. It's kind of unfortunate. I'm not saying that this game had to go, out of its way to explain every little detail of, Hyrule during this time, but you think that we get a little bit more background. And in terms of the game's ending, it's really just tied to Tears of the Kingdom's cutscenes. It's pretty neat, and you also get to see things that happened while King Rauru was sealing up Ganondorf, such as the Construct and Calamo, two characters that I love. I'm gonna be honest, at first I thought the idea of the Construct was stupid, but throughout the story, I really grew to like him. Same with Calamo. I originally thought that he was the Korok for the Great Deku Tree, but as it turns out, not only does he plant himself in the ground, spoiler alert, but you're watching a review, so what do you expect? He plants himself right next to the Construct that died while trying to protect him from the evil Construct. Was it Calamity Construct? Something like that. It was the red one, and the good one's the blue one. But yeah, as Calamo grows, you see a cutscene on what he eventually looks like as a big old tree, and if you kind of cross-reference Breath of the Wild and stuff, you can actually find out where that location is in the game. As if for the gameplay, it's just the Hyrule Warriors we've known and loved for years. I'll be honest, I played on easy mode because I was more interested in getting through the story, but if I wanted an actual challenge, I'd play through hard mode. But even then, it was still fun. I mean, all these characters have different abilities, some are pretty unique. I love how you can use the sages and make them all work together to do different abilities. Even if the gameplay is repetitive, which again, played on easy mode, but I feel like it would be the same way regardless. Of course, sometimes you're encouraged to use, water attacks to wash off mud, electric attacks for flying things, use, I think it was impact attacks to get rid of enemies with armor. There's definitely an incentive, but at the same time, we're really just mashing Y and X throughout the whole game. And it kind of brings me to the point, how much would you care about this game if there wasn't Zelda? I mean, I know Hyrule Warriors is based on this other game franchise, but would you actually buy it if it didn't have Zelda? And kind of going back to the cast, yeah, I mean, Zelda's the big character, but it's kind of weird to imagine, a game without Link. Echoes of Wisdom kind of did that, and it did it pretty well. The Construct sort of serves as the Link of the game. And it kind of works out because, as it turns out, a piece of the Master Sword is in that Construct. You can actually go back to the beginning of Tears of the Kingdom and kind of see where that happened. You don't see the shard fly off, but it kind of goes back to that cutscene, that moment where, Link and Zelda were separated in Tears of the Kingdom. And you can see that, yeah, a piece of the Master Sword indeed went back in time with Zelda. And it kind of brings me to my point that this game means a lot more because it's connected to Tears of the Kingdom. Age of Calamity, you can kind of make that case, but I feel like it's more so stronger with Imprisonment. Because, what's really the objective at the end of the day? To help out Zelda? To help out Hyrule? To beat Ganon? We already know what happens. We're really just interested in what's happening in the Imprisonment War, the stuff we missed out in Tears of the Kingdom. The original Hyrule Warriors works so well because it was its own fleshed out world. It's all crossed over. And that's why I would say that this game is not worth picking up unless you're a big fan of Tears of the Kingdom. You're going to get by just fine with a game like Age of Calamity, and especially Hyrule Warriors if you're really wanting that kind of gameplay that this offers. Because as it is, this game only really works out as a tie-in game. You're going to want to play Tears of the Kingdom first to, really figure this out. And one last thing that I didn't mention yet is the fact that this game has both split screen and the ability to use Game Share. Game Share is sort of the download play of the Switch 2, but it's also really not. It's actually playing off a cloud version of the host Switch 2, and it's because of that you're able to play with another person through this Game Share service. I was able to play with my brother, and admittedly I looked on a Switch, and I'm gonna be honest, it didn't look that good. It was like 480p, but that means you could technically play some Switch 2 games on the original Switch. It's pretty neat. Like many other games, it's pretty fun to play with other people. And it leads me down to this. Is this game worth it? I would say no, unless you're a big Zelda fan, especially if you have someone else to play with. Again, just play the original Hyrule Warriors, it's arguably better, but as it turns out, a lot of people are fans of Zelda, so you probably like it. But I'd recommend going to other Hyrule Warriors games before going to this one. It's why I give Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment a 6 out of 10. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!